Today in our hot seat, we have Dave Deasy, CMO or SVP of Marketing at Wordly. Hi, Dave. Good to have you.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, Dave, are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's do this.
Welcome to C-Suite Hot Seat, the show where we put C-level executives from language service providers of all sizes in the hot seat. We will ask tough questions and get inspired answers. Our hosts today are Sarah Hickey, VP of Research, and Joseph Kubowski, CEO at Nimdzi Insights.
So Dave, in one sentence, tell us, what does your company do?
We make it easy for organizations to make their meetings and events more inclusive by offering live AI-powered translation that's affordable and easy to use.
What's the first career you dreamed of having as a kid?
Growing up, as most kids, I was often going to the doctor, and I always had good experiences with the doctors that I saw. And doctor shows were really popular on TV, and it looked like a great profession. And as I got a little bit older and I got into high school, I had a number of older friends who had pursued medical careers. And as I talked to them, while they enjoyed it, they didn't seem happy. And so eventually I decided that while the medical profession was a good one, I chose to go a different route, and I ended up becoming a mechanical engineer, and then later went on to business school. Wow. And so that's kind of my high-level career path.
Wow. Kind of cool that you had such good experiences with doctors as a kid, because I feel like for most kids, they prefer not to go to the doctor. So it's nice that you always use that as inspiration.
Especially if you're from a doctor's family, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So Dave, when you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
A couple different things I like to do from an athletic standpoint. I love running and cycling. So that keeps me busy. Second big thing is love to travel. I have a lot of family and friends scattered primarily throughout the US. So love traveling to be able to visit them. And then the third big thing is I have 3 kids. And so they're all in college. And so a lot of time now either visiting them at college or spending time with them when they're at home.
Very nice.
That's very nice. Sounds like every time we talk to these business people, the family pops up, right? Which is great. So that we realize where we are and what are the important things.
Particularly if you move around, right? Or if you have family that's moved around. So it creates fun travel opportunities.
Totally. So if you were given a chance to visit 3 different countries, which ones would you choose and why?
The first one would be Ireland, which is where my grandparents are from. So I always enjoy getting a chance to go back and see where they grew up and try to experience that life a little bit. The second and the third one would be Brazil and Australia. I've never been to either one, and everyone I talk to that's been there has had a great experience, and I'd love to get a chance to explore it myself.
The best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Treat people like you want to be treated. And so some people refer to that as the golden rule. It may go by some different names, but the fundamental philosophy is, if you want to be treated with respect, then treat other people with respect. And I have found that advice has worked great for me, particularly in the business world, that it's a great way just to be able to build a great relationship with people that you work with. And so I use that to try to guide my day-to-day activities.
Very nice.
100%. Yeah. Okay, Dave, thanks for this already. I feel like we got to know you a bit better at this point, but those questions weren't, exactly tough yet, were they?
Okay. You're right. Let's take it away, Sarah.
Yeah, we'll crank up the heat in here a little bit. When you're looking back at your career, what would you say was your first breakthrough? So
for me, from a career perspective, I started off, I was a mechanical engineering graduate, and my first job out of college I was a sales engineer, and I was selling electrical equipment. And it was a great job. It was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. But I realized that as a salesperson, I really didn't have any control over what the company did. I simply had to sell whatever we created. And some of our products were good and some of our products were not so good. And it was at that point I decided that I wanted to pursue a different career path where I could be more in control of the products that the company built. And therefore, I ended up going back to business school and I got my master's in business. And then after that, since then, I've pursued careers either as a marketing executive or in general management roles, which have been equally fun, but I feel like they've given me more control to be able to help guide the products the company builds and the markets we go after.
So speaking of markets, why did you choose the market you're in now?
So for me personally, joining Wordly has been particularly, fun and enjoyable. As a career marketer, a lot of what I've always been involved with is setting up and running events and different types of trade shows and conferences and different things. So Wordly was attractive, number one, because that's the market that it goes after. It provides services to the meetings and events industry. So I was familiar with that industry first. But then secondly, the product is very easy to see what the product does. And so historically, I have worked for security companies. I've worked for compliance companies, a lot of companies with great products, but they're very difficult to explain to people what they do, and they're difficult to demonstrate. And what attracted me to the AI translation business is it's a product that's just very easy to demonstrate and very easy to see what it does. So it makes the job a little more fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And yeah, it makes complete sense. So now in your day-to-day right now at Wordly, as the CMO, what does your day-to-day work life look like, and what are the biggest challenges that you experience in it?
Sure. So as a marketing executive, there's a broad range of activities that you need to get involved with. You can quickly summarize them into a couple of categories. Number one is always trying to drive more demand for the business. And so that's all about trying to create more awareness. How do you get the name of the company out there and get people interested enough that they want to contact you and try to learn more? So that's a big focus. Another big focus is around the brand and trying to create a brand that stands for quality and value and something that is that customers respect. And then the third big focus is always on hiring. How do you hire good people that have the right skills and then fit culturally? So that's those three categories is where I spend the bulk of my time. Probably the biggest challenge, not just with Wordly, but with other companies, is always finding the right people. And to me, again, the right people, it's a combination of people that have the right skills, but also, again, people that are going to fit in with the culture and be able to mesh with the rest of the company. And
can you recall either like a big challenge that you overcame or a situation where, like in your career, doesn't need to be related to Wordly, but just throughout your career in general, something where you may have made a mistake and you learned something from it? Can you share like a lesson with us?
I definitely can. The most common mistake that I've encountered at pretty much every company I've ever worked at is building products that we thought the market was going to love, and we built it only to find out that it was a nice to have and not a must have. And so the lesson that I always carry going forward is it's critical to do a lot of research and really try to understand why you're building something. And the rule that I usually try to apply is, can you identify at least 3 customers and ideally 10 that you know are going to buy something if you build it? And so that's the general rule. A specific example would be, I worked at a company called TrustArc, and we had a privacy compliance solution that made it easy for companies to be able to comply with regulations like the GDPR. And when I initially joined the company, we had a solution that was designed for medium and large companies. And we decided that there should be this incredible opportunity in the small business market because there were millions of small businesses who were online that had to deal with privacy compliance regulations. And so we built a very easy to use, inexpensive version of our product. And then we rolled it out to the small business market. And while they loved the product, what we ended up finding out was they were so busy doing so many other things for their business, and they had so few resources. While they were interested in what we had, it simply never was high enough priority to spend the money on it. Mm-hmm. And so we learned a little bit of a painful lesson that, again, it's important not just to have a good idea, but you need to be able to do some more in-depth research to get a better conclusion as to whether or not people are going to really buy the product before you build it.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're all about the research here. So I 100% agree. Yes. And then on the flip side, any success story that you can share with us?
Well, I think I'll share one from Wordly. So Wordly initially launched back in 2019, and it was a new product for the market using AI to bring live translation to meetings and events. And the initial solution was designed for in-person events. So lots of in-person conferences going on all around the world back in 2019. Mm-hmm. Moving into 2020, as we all know, COVID hit. And everything instantly changed from in-person to online. And so we had to quickly pivot and build a version of the product that would work equally well for virtual events. And successfully, we were able to do that. So we were able to pivot. And now as the in-person events are coming back, what we're finding out is we now need to re-educate people that our solution works for in-person as well as virtual events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Staying a little bit on the success side, this was a great example. But now when we look at the more personal side, because I feel like success, it's a very subjective word as well, right? Success can mean so many different things to different people. So for you personally, like, what does success mean to you?
I mean, for me, success, I break it into a couple of categories. There's business success, and then there's personal success. Mm-hmm. I'll start with the second one. So the personal, or on the family side, is making sure that my family and friends are healthy and happy. And so doing everything I can to try to make sure that I can help everyone be as successful and happy as possible. That's always goal number one. From a business perspective, it's a couple of priorities. Number one is making the business successful, which ultimately means making money. So whatever business venture I'm involved in, how do we sell enough to pay everyone and make the investors happy? So number one, it's all about making enough money to be successful. The second one is making sure we build a great product. Because ultimately, if you don't have a great product, people won't buy it. They won't be happy. And then the third one is, do you have a team? Or are the employees happy? So are you creating a culture and an environment where people enjoy working there? And ultimately, that's going to be the key to success.
Mm-hmm. And as one of the leaders in your current business as well, at Wordly, I mean, you're in the C-suite as well. How do you make sure you achieve that? The last point you were talking about, having a great team culture, company culture, where people want to join the team, want to stay with the company and do their best, and are happy. What do you do to facilitate that?
I was afraid to say, how do you enjoy the money that you generate?
Yes, of course, the CEO wants to ask that question.
So I think the number one thing is making sure you hire the right people, right? That are going to be good fits. So doing the best job you can, trying to make sure that you hire the best matches in the first place. I think the second big thing is making it clear what somebody's job is. So being very clear about setting goals and expectations, mm-hmm. giving people the right resources that are needed to get the job done, and then providing the support and the mentoring along the way, right? To coach them and help them be successful. And then the last piece for me personally, as I mentioned earlier, is this concept of the golden rule. So from a management perspective, treat people with respect and treat them how you would want to be treated yourself. And I find that ultimately that makes people happier, and they work harder, and they're more successful.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you for sharing that. Looking back over your whole career, let's say, what would you say was the most innovative thing you've ever done?
So the most innovative thing for me by far was I started and ran my own business for about 4 years. And so quick background story, I started off my career working for larger companies like Hewlett-Packard. And at one point in my career there, I was involved with creating the first e-commerce business inside of HP in order to sell their products online. And so that in and of itself was pretty innovative, because it was the first online business for the company. But then I eventually left that company and I started my own business. I leveraged my e-commerce background, and I started an online retailer selling corporate gifts. And so the idea behind the company was these were destination-themed gifts. So think of gifts themed around San Francisco, New York, London, other major cities. And it was a combination of souvenirs and foods and other types of memorabilia and different items. And so we sold those to both individuals, as well as we packaged them up and we sold them to conference planners and meeting organizers. And so personally, it was very rewarding and a lot of fun to build your own business from the ground up, taking it from idea to putting everything in place. And I successfully ran that for about 4 years. And then ended up deciding that while I liked running my own business, there were certain aspects I missed of being part of a larger technology company. So I ended up selling that business and then moved on to doing the types of work that I've been doing most recently, which is heading up marketing for high growth technology startups.
Very cool. What would you say is your biggest takeaway from that experience, from having run your own business?
I think the biggest takeaway is it's important in your career to take some risks. And if you have a passion to do something, to go for it and try it. And so for me, it was a big risk, because I went from working for a huge Fortune 500 company, which had massive resources and pretty much I could do anything I wanted, to go into a pure startup that I funded myself and started off as just one employee. And while I did not ultimately continue running that business or turn it into a Fortune 500 company, I look back on my career and the fact that I took the risk and I started the business, that I feel more fulfilled personally.
What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs who are starting their own business in the language industry today? So
I think the advice I give, in some ways, it's advice I would give no matter what industry somebody was moving into, but I'll apply it to the language services industry. First and foremost is you need to understand who your customer is and what problem you're solving for them. And so that's the critical first part, because that eventually leads to the product that you're going to build. And so part of that effort is you need to do a lot of research. You need to get out there and talk to potential customers and other experts in the industry. And so for language services, you need to go to some of the major events. So go to big events like the IMEX conferences, and go where people who are going to potentially be buying language services type products for events, for example, might be attending. Number two would be to try to network with as many experts in the field. So Nimdzi would be a great example, right? There's organizations like Nimdzi that have lots of resources on the language services industry. And so you can do lots of research trying to understand trends and trying to understand who the different players in the landscape are, and ideally get a chance to talk to some of the consultants. So doing as much research on the industry as possible. And then number three is networking. So ultimately, you could build a great product and you could have a great idea, the key to success is going to be networking with as many people as possible. So again, trying to build those relationships with some of the analysts and consultants in the industry, as well as potentially or probably needing to partner with some other companies in the language services industry. So trying to get out there using LinkedIn and other networking tools to build up your contact base in order to help you along the way. So that would be
fantastic. I love it.
Great.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, thank you so much for today. Thanks for joining us in the hot seat. I hope you didn't sweat too much.
Not too bad.
If anyone else feels like letting off some steam and you are part of the C-suite at the company in the language service industry, sign up with us if you dare to sit in our hot seat.
And for the viewers at home, thank you so much for watching today. And look out for the next episode that will be published as a video on MultiLingual TV and as a podcast on the Nimdzi website. We'll see you there.
See you there.